Good evening and welcome to the third episode of Chit Chat. Joining me tonight are Sully and Count Frakula from Gamecast, and the Count is also known as Snowy, so welcome Snowy.
Hello.
If you've been following the channel for a little while, you'll know about Sully because I used to do a podcast with him called Average Gamer, but you may not know who Count is. I have talked to him before, and I did a pocket edition over on Gamecast, which is these guys' channel. And we were talking about EA back then and the debacle over Star Wars Battlefront. And that is something that we'll be covering a bit later on in this episode. So stick around if you want to hear us diss EA. In that, we'll also be talking a little bit about what happened with EA's stock meeting this week. They had an investor call and there was some interesting stuff came out of that. So we'll be going over that a little bit as well. But before we get to that, I'd like these guys to tell me a little bit about Gamecast and how it got started and who's on it, apart from these two Herberts.
Oh.
And...
How dare
and
you.
basically fill us...
Take us out, it folds.
And
Can't
I knew you guys would start like this. And basically let us know a little bit about Gamecast. So do you want to do that now? Who's going to start?
Sure. Well, I mean, basically, Gamecast has probably been up and about and online for probably, I don't know, how long have we been out now? 6 to 8 months, maybe, probably almost getting onto a year,
Started
really.
about July
was it?
so
Late
nearly
July?
6
Yeah, so we've been
months.
up about 6 months. We've been working on it for probably about 12 months. As some of you might know, I knew Joe through my personal channel, One Guy's Opinion, and we then branched off and we did Average Gamer, and that podcast was a raging success. We all became wildly rich and drank cocktails on the beach, and then we came back and I decided to do something else in Gamecast. But basically the idea was behind Gamecast was to create something a little bit different. I wanted to do something kind of wildly huge and collaborative. I got a little bit bored living in my kind of channel's bubble. So I branched out and we decided we wanted to create something that we coined TV for Gamers. Now, basically, the content itself is very similar to what you already find on YouTube, but we wanted to change the way that content is delivered and consumed. And when we say TV for Gamers, we quite literally mean a TV-like product, which we'll talk about a little bit more later in this episode of Chip Chat, I believe, and our future plans for that. But essentially, we're probably a team of 10 to 15 people at the moment. Is that about right, Count? 10-ish people regularly contribute?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we
regularly contribute
5 to 10.
about 6 or 7. Yeah.
And a few little pieces sprinkled in on the side. But basically, we cover, almost basically daily news that you can consume in a nice little tidy package. We do a lot of opinionated content with the likes of our news podcast. We have a pocket edition, something we call Pocket Edition Podcast. It was like a smaller form factor podcast. So we cover all the big kind of bits and pieces that float around the industry news-wise, and we definitely share our opinions. And we've got a few bits and pieces of content that are just for fun. Let's play-like content that revolve around original ideas. And of course, reviews. We have plenty of reviews hitting the channel every single week. So we kind of cover it all.
And I can interject there for a second and say that if anyone is interested in Gamecast, it is worth checking out. But the Pocket Edition is a very easy way to sort of dip into the channel and get a feel for what it's about. And also, there's the news channel I find quite useful as well. I dip into that myself from time to time. When Count's not doing it.
Wait.
But,
You got kids around.
Sorry, Count.
Well, you've missed out on the last, 3 or 4 days worth then, so...
I actually watched the last one, so I was watching that today. So, yeah, I do watch it when you're on, honest. You said, though, Sully, that you were going to cover a little bit about where you're going with this a bit later on, but did you want to actually give us a little bit about that now?
Yeah, sure. So essentially, we knew that we couldn't hit the ground running and go from 0 to 100 immediately. So we wanted to start as a traditional YouTube channel in the sense of all of our content goes up to YouTube on demand in a very much stock standard YouTube way. And we were then going to build our content types out, build our kind of team member portfolio out, and then we'd slowly branch into reaching our ultimate goal of having, I guess, a knitted together TV-like package. So when I say TV-like package, that it's very much what you'd receive on TV. So, we're going to start with a variety of content each day, and it's going to be knitted together with our own built from scratch ad breaks. And, ultimately we want to provide a solid day's worth of entertainment in one kind of broadcast. And that leads me to the next point. This broadcast will be launching on Twitch, hopefully, I believe when this chat goes up, should be the very next weekend. And that broadcast will, I think, consist of probably, it's small to begin with, but we're going for about, I think, probably 4-ish hours, I think that first broadcast will be. And that'll be complete with, news, reviews, let's plays, opinion piece shows, and a couple of new shows that we have as well in there too, which are going to be very interesting.
Can you give us any spoilers?
Any spoilers? Well, I believe Max and Mark, one being our review member and one being, they're both review members. They're working on a new show called Split Screen. Now, essentially, I believe they are playing almost devil's advocate for certain big talking points of the industry, and they're there to basically butt heads and pull things apart. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic, because I know we all sit down and we talk about our opinions on Pocket Edition and the newscast, but quite often, more or less, a lot of the time, we all settle at the same point because, we're all pretty level-headed. But they're there to really, play both sides of the fence and really pull something apart. So that's going to be very interesting if you want to find, the really nitty-gritty middle ground and fighting point. So that's going to be an interesting one, I think. I'm interested to see how that pans out. I haven't seen it yet myself, so I'm very interested to see how that's going to pan out.
That sounds like it's right up my alley, to be honest. That's I like the idea of something like that will allow you to explore different angles of the same argument, because as you say, we come on and we shout a lot, but we don't shout at each other, or we don't put different viewpoints across, at least not wildly different viewpoints. And I think sometimes we can be, you mentioned this earlier, you can get into your own little bubble. Even when you're talking to other people, you can fall into a bubble if you're not careful.
Yeah, like-minded people just end up coming together, I think, at some point. You kind of brush aside everybody else and you always go for the people that think like you and you can relate to. So I know Max and Mark especially said it's an interesting show because it's forced them to ask questions that they wouldn't normally ask just for this show. So they're thinking outside their own box, and whether or not they agree with these questions that they're asking each other, it's an interesting idea, playing devil's advocate. So I'm really excited to see how they kind of pull that one off, and what kind of package that show is going to take visually as well, which is something we talk a lot about on Gamecast. We always like to, everything has a unique packet and revolves around a unique idea. So I'm really excited to see what they come up with.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. I'm already looking forward to it now.
So that's a new one just for the broadcast as well. So that one will only be available next week, and hopefully if they get their shit together.
Nice one. So is there anything else you want to say about Gamecast at this stage, or are you done with it for now?
I mean,
we'll come back to it.
That's basically us in a nutshell, count, I think, isn't it? We're available in a few different places. So obviously we're already up on YouTube. We're already up on Twitter, so you can follow us on Twitter. And we also have Discord, where we basically put together all of our bits and pieces. It's kind of like our head office or base of operations. And we also have our community rolled into that same Discord. So that's an interesting space to fill, because we do throw out a lot of invitations for people to join our content, which we actually have had a few biters, which is very interesting. It's always nice to talk to fresh faces. And it's kind of interesting as well, because you can kind of dabble in kind of the behind the scenes process to a degree. So that's an interesting space to kind of join, I think.
And I think that that sort of dovetails into something I was talking with Cleo about last week. And it's, when you're a new YouTuber, when you're starting out, I know this happened with me. It comes back to that bubble again. You're doing something, you're in your own little bubble, and you don't really know what you're doing. You've got no one to talk to. And so coming into something like a Discord for you guys who've been doing this a little while, anyone who's interested in starting their own channel, go and check these guys out, because they can, help you out with various ideas and little tips and tricks that you can get up to. Because we're all fairly new to this, but just doing it for a year or 2 years, you do start to learn stuff.
Absolutely,
Me.
In terms of resource wise, our Discord has been incredible. We've helped a lot of people and each other as well. I remember when Count came on, we were helping out with his audio to kind of lift his audio quality. little bits and pieces like that. People always have Photoshop questions, video editor questions. Hey, what do you think about this? What am I doing wrong on my channel? Like resource wise, it's been extremely useful, even for myself. Like I was on there just the last weekend asking relatively newbie Premiere questions. So absolutely, in terms of help, if you have questions or you want to get into the YouTube scene, you want to create videos, we'll tell you straight up where you're at and we'll help you.
So there you go, guys. Go and check them out. And I'll put a link into that as well in the description at the end of this. Moving on from Gamecast for now, though, I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about you personally and your gaming history. And if you listen to the one that I did with Clay last week, you'll know where I'm going with this. I just was interested how you came to be gamers and, what your first console was, whether you're using consoles now, whether you're PC gamers. I think you're a PC gamer, aren't you, Cal?
Woo!
And just let me know how you came to be a gamer and how that led you into this YouTube thing.
Count, do you want to take this one away? Because I've spent a long time talking.
Okay. Quick edit note, by the way. Mute me for the last 5 minutes because I'm restoring photos and I have a very clicky keyboard, so that's what that was, if you probably heard that.
Bloody hell. You can't take him anywhere, Joe.
Oh, you can. You just have to take him back afterwards to apologise.
I'm going to leave him in your server, mate. All right.
Wow, that made Photoshop do a lot of fun things. Right. What the fuck am I talking about? Games. So, I've been into games all my life, really. I think because my dad, when he was alive, he was very sort of into games as well. Like, obviously quite old games. Like, the first console, quote, that I owned, it was my dad's, but, I still have it, is a green Game Boy Color. And I still have
Very
that.
nice.
I still have at least 2 or 3 of the original games that my dad had with it. And one weird sort of multi-cart. There's a 30-in-1, which most of them were Tetris. Don't ask. So, technically, my first video game was Super Mario, was it Land on the Game Boy? Because it was on that multi-cart. So that's not a bad first game.
Yeah.
Then I sort of went to the PS2 when I was about 7-ish. My dad got me that for a birthday one year. He had a whole story about how he went around loads of different game shops bartering to get the special silver PS2 for the cheapest price, which was quite fun. I don't have it anymore. I'm really disappointed because I got rid of it because I was a fucking idiot when I was about 13.
Yeah, that's most men or males or teen boys.
Well, yeah, that's most people, really.
Yeah.
So that's a shame. But I've slowly been getting back some of the old games that I have, some of which don't hold up very well. And from there, I sort of went off it for a couple of years, but then I got back on with things like the DS, and I started my PC gaming career.
They were the later years, Joe. The middle to late teens.
So you were out down the pub.
Yeah, and then you realised they're batshit crazy, and you went back to his real hobbies.
Yeah, I don't go to the pub really, so not like you, an alcoholic, Sully. So
what? Come on, man. When have I ever given that impression of ever?
When you
he was teetotal until he started Gamecast.
Yeah, I was on
and
the
now
bottle.
I get most nights to hear, "Oh, I'm in the pub," or "Oh, I've got a drink." Got a problem, Sully. The first step to curing it is admitting it.
Well, I admit it, but it's just all of Australia that has a problem, so we're all in it together, so nobody worries about it.
Fair enough. But this is actually sort of mid-teens, about 14-ish. I started PC gaming properly with The Sims 3.
Ew. Sorry.
Oh, you can't say that. We're about to dovetail hard into simulation games right now. Hard.
Hey.
It's all simulation here on out, Joe. It's all
The
simulation.
Sims 4, I'll give you, piece of shit. Sims 3, good game. It's a damn good game. Performs like dog shit even on my current computer, but it's a good game.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
I can't criticize other people's gaming habits given some of the things I've played over the years.
But But yeah, so from there I went to more towards the indie scene, and now I play a lot of indie games on Steam and not much else. But then I also, you always have your little pet franchise.
You're a man of
you go
finer
back to.
tastes, Count, gaming-wise these days. That's the indie
I'm
scene.
an elite PC gamer who only plays the indies.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Imagine me holding a pipe and smoking.
You're a master
Monocle.
race within the master
Yeah, I
race.
know, I'm that guy.
It's a connoisseur.
But yeah. So yeah, that's my sort of brief history of my gaming past and present. Yeah, gaming PC. That's where I've ended up at, and I'm quite happy here.
How'd you get on YouTube, though, Count? I'm very curious.
How did I get on YouTube? I decided to make YouTube videos, so I made YouTube videos.
Just like
And
that.
then we took
Pretty
him
much. I was just like, right, I think I want to make YouTube videos. And I was a bit sort of apprehensive about it, and I was like, fuck it, I'll do it. I've got a camera. So I made vlogs for a year. They don't exist anymore because they were shit. And then after about a year, I was just like, right, okay, I'm not enjoying the vlogs anymore. I want to do games. So I was just like, right, I'll try a couple of games. And did that for a bit. And, it worked out okay on my channel. I had a bit of a break at some points because just
Yeah, gets a bit grindy.
trying to get me to a schedule on Let's Plays is a bit difficult. But yeah, I did that for about a year of sort of quite intensive Let's Plays, like doing about 2 or 3 a week. And then I joined...
That's hard work.
Yeah, and then I joined Gamecast, and now it's just sort of...
He played hard to get, Joe. I courted him for about 2 months, I feel like. Or stalked.
You
Cyber
courted me
stalked.
for like a couple of days.
Was it? Oh, that good. I had him.
Well,
It felt like months.
Felt
Or
I
like
don't know how
months,
long you
yeah.
stalked me for, because I don't know that.
Probably a
but,
while.
like,
That sounds like
you
me.
first messaged me. When you first messaged me, kind of thought it was a scam. Gonna be honest.
Oh, fair enough.
The way you presented it. Just gonna put that out there.
I also had an image of Sully outside your house, like looking through your bush. looking.
If it makes you feel any
I'm
better,
looking through my bush.
If it makes
Gotta
you feel
fuck
any
me dinner
better.
first for that.
only one person ever said no, and that's when I retweaked it, so I can't imagine what it was like before.
Yeah. You first contacted me on the 2nd of April 2017, and I joined the Discord on the 23rd of April, so it was actually a couple of weeks, I'll give you that.
Yeah, I think you're on holidays or something at the time.
Oh, yeah. I think I just changed jobs or something.
Mm.
I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so that's that. Oh, no, I hadn't changed jobs yet. I was just starting the care job. We don't talk about that anymore.
Yeah, that was they were some troublesome days.
Oh, yes, that was a fun 2.5, 3 months, whatever it was. Felt like a fucking eternity.
And that was the most depressed Count had ever been.
So then he joined Gamecast and
Got even more
been
depressed.
rosy since.
And then we locked him in and put him under the thumb. In reality, he's probably more the thumb for the news side of things. So
I think literally I just decided, right, when it all launched, I was just like, right, my own channel can just take a backseat. I'm going to do the news on here. I'd already started doing news, then I just sort of decided to not do that thing on my own channel. And I was just like, right, I'll just devote my time to my content creating time to this instead.
in
So,
fairness, that's
you
the
know,
same with my channel. I think a lot of people's channels as well. But it's just more fun, I think, collaborating with people that are equally passionate
Yeah.
about YouTube and games and all that kind of stuff. Like, it doesn't matter where it's at, like whose channel it's on. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of fun to occasionally stream on my own channel or do the odd video. It's like, I mean, the last 2 videos I did were fucking random bullshit.
Well, I mean, you can get your dick out on your channel. You're not doing it on Gamecast, though. So freedom is always nice.
I mean, I'm not going to do
Not that I
because
know
get my
of.
account suspended, but Yeah, like the last 2 videos I did on my channel were in November, and it was looking at a shit Halloween decoration, and another one was unboxing some presents that Mark had sent me.
That's right. I should have done an unboxing
That's
for
how
those
little
too.
of a shit I give about my about
Joe,
my
another
channel.
another Gamecast guy. He's Mark. You've probably met him as well. He's obsessed with Japan. He goes to Japan like every year. I think he wants a waifu wife or something. He just loves the girls over there. But he goes
He's
multiple
one of them
times a
love
year.
pillows.
Yeah, he gets right into it. He's bought himself a Japanese to English translator for next time he goes, so he can actually talk to the girls. I don't know if he actually will or not. But he bought us some bought us some merchandise when he was over there last time from all their shops. So we had some pretty weird shit. We got the Dragon Ball Scouter radar. We got a lot of, I think, you got some Pokemon stuff. I got some Dragon Ball Z stuff. He's a great guy, and thank you so much, Mark, for sending us those gifts. But yeah, we've sent each other a few.
He sent me so much stuff as well. I was just like, what the fuck?
Same.
Like a big box of shit.
Yeah.
Just collected it from the post office. I was like, what
Don't
the
you
hell?
feel like a dick count? Like, he sent us some nice gifts, and the only gifts we've sent was Shaka, and they were like really derogatory, offensive business cards. We can't talk about that, though. We can't talk about that.
We can, but we shouldn't. It was the best thing. The meeting when we came up with those.
Jeez, I'll send you a picture later, Joe. That's it.
It was a beautiful mess.
Sorry, we can't talk about it out of respect for Shaka. So, sorry, Joe, we're derailing your podcast.
We're all over the
This is
fucking
pretty
place
much
now.
Gamecast in a nutshell.
I'll just cut you guys out, don't worry.
Yeah, just cut us at some point where I was on about Gamecast and move on.
This is pretty much Gamecast,
yeah.
so in a nutshell, just shenanigans.
It is. It's a bit of a mess, but it's fun.
It's a hot mess of fun, and it works sometimes.
Yeah, I joined Gamecast in April. I now do it. My full content creation time goes to Gamecast. I even did a Let's Play for him last week on a VR game. So, yeah, it's good stuff. I enjoy it. I'm glad Sully asked me to be a part of it.
Cool. And just before we move on, Sully,
Yes.
I actually don't know about your gaming history too much. I know a little bit, because obviously we've talked about it, but I don't know your first...
Well, my first cherry popping experience for video games was Starwing back on the SNES.
Oh, jeez, wow.
Yeah, that's going back a little bit. But I guess my origin story, I'll keep it pretty short and tidy for you. My dad worked at a charity, kind of like the Salvation Army. I don't know if you guys have it over there. He worked for a...
Yeah, Sally Army's over here.
Yeah, so he worked for Salvation Army. So he had a lot of secondhand goods coming through. And for some reason, everybody used to always get rid of their video game consoles to the Salvation Army when the new ones came out. So I got all kind of the previous gen stuff. But being, 5 years old, you didn't care. You just played whatever you got given. And I was pretty chuffed with whatever my dad brought home. So every so often, every couple of weeks, he'd bring home a new game for me. But the first console experience I had was the Super Nintendo, which is a pretty good place to start. So Starwing was my first experience, and after that I was just in love with gaming. That was it. Just something about that game just took me away. It was quite challenging. That might have been it. It was very addictive and challenging, Starwing. It's not as easy as you think it is. Like, it looks easy, but when you're trying to fly a plane on a D-pad, not so easy. My second experience, gaming-wise, and this is when it's like an LSD trip world opened up for me as a child, was Super Mario Bros. And Super Mario World. So I went all the way down the Mario rabbit hole, and that was it. Once that happened, I was Nintendo probably up until my teen years. So that was pretty much my childhood, spent on the Super Nintendo, playing all of those offerings. Absolutely loved it, fell in love. And it wasn't until, we're talking past the N64 days. It did the usual stock standard N64 stuff, Super Mario 64, GoldenEye, all that crap. That was great. But it wasn't until about almost high school, maybe early high school, I got on the Xbox Halo bandwagon. And that was the gateway to adult video gaming for me, the Xbox, which I'm sure it was for a lot of people my age. It changed everything in my mind, and it just came at the perfect time for me. Halo, you go from, these kind of semi-believable, I guess, 3D environments where it's kind of like, how 3D back in the day for the N64 and the SNES was kind of fake 3D? Like, it was very textured and blocky, and you could tell it wasn't this overly believable 3D environment. And then Halo comes around, and it's this fully, back in the day, it felt photorealistic, fully realized 3D environment. It was just incredible. And that...
It was a game changer.
It absolutely was. Yeah, the controller itself, going from single joystick to dual joystick, just something about Halo just captured me. Just the story, the environment, the gameplay. They had it. It was the whole package. Oops, I think we lost count. I'm sure he'll be back. So yeah, once Halo came, that was it. That was the gateway drug to adult video gaming. So, and almost the rest is history after that. I went through the usual paces of the Xbox. Forza, the remainder of the Halo titles. And here we are. We went through the 360.
Ever played Project Gotham?
Project Gotham. Oh, that was fantastic. Yes, I loved Project Gotham. I think that was a launch title on the original Xbox, wasn't it?
I think it was.
Yeah, so
I loved that game.
yeah,
Absolutely loved that
and
game.
I was still relatively, I guess you'd say, young when the original Xbox hit. But come the 360, I was an adult, so that was it. Right into the online space as that started to rise as well. So obviously I was a typical late teen, early 20 Call of Duty player. Got right around the zombies. Still to this day, I enjoy zombies with my high school buddies. It's just a bag of laughs. And, fast forward a little bit more to the Xbox One. Haven't really dabbled in that much. As we all know the story with the Xbox One, it was kind of a little bit lackluster at launch, and I ended up drifting over to the PlayStation. And these days, online is probably less prevalent for me, and I'm more into the single-player offerings through the PS4. And I also have my gaming PC, which is kind of a guilty pleasure of mine that I enjoy probably spending too much money on. Yes. Yes.
I'm less a PC gamer now than I was back in the day, but I've always really at heart been a PC gamer.
Yeah.
I hear when you talk about the N64 and the original, what was it called? The first Nintendo big console. I can't remember.
The NES and SNES.
The NES, yeah. They kind of first time round they were there. I knew of them, and occasionally I would play them around people's houses, but they weren't my thing at that time. I was a bit of a PC snob back in those days, and counts back.
Hey.
So it's really interesting talking to people, and then for me to get the SNES Classic and start looking through those games, it's kind of almost new for me.
You could pop your kid on Super Mario World HD, and he would. I'd imagine he'd not know it from a bar of soap. Like that, it could be like a new experience. I think that game absolutely holds up, especially in HD as well. That game is just timeless, I feel like, anyway.
You've talked about this with Grant before, haven't you? I think you both love that game.
Possibly. That sounds like us. Yeah, so, obviously being an extremely passionate gamer, you enjoy talking about video games. So for me, I had a couple of outlets. One of my best buddy, and another friend that I had. But after a while, they probably started to grow up a little bit faster than me, and they just lost interest in the video game scene. So I very quickly ran out of an outlet for my passion and hobby. So, then you start turning to some of these online spaces and stuff. And I wasn't an overly confident writer or typer at the time. I had some difficulties growing up in school with reading and writing. I was just a little bit slow to the game. I had mild dyslexia, so they say, growing up. So I wasn't a very confident typer, and I was always self-conscious. So I wanted to kind of express myself through video, and obviously video, you think straight away YouTube. I knew I could talk, you can't shut me up, so I went straight to YouTube. And that's pretty much it, and through YouTube, I've met everybody that's here today. I've met everybody at Gamecast. I've met the majority of people in Joe's Discord. I've met, the Clay Corrupt Games side of the story as well. I met them all through the early days of YouTube. So you network really quick when you're passionate about it. It's your hobby. And that led me to Gamecast, and through Gamecast, I've become very confident in how I present myself, text-wise and just speed of writing and all that kind of stuff. I know Count would probably point out 100 million flubs that I've had, which there's been plenty.
No, we all do that.
But yeah, so that's pretty much my story in a nutshell, which was obviously my channel, my old previous channel, which is still up, doesn't get a lot of content, which was One Guy's Opinion, which basically revolved around just talking about the hot talking points of the industry from my point of view. And that was it. That's it, Joe. Here we are.
Cool. So we've got your history. We know a little bit about you, and now I'm going to take us into the subject matter that we're covering tonight. And I know this one's going to be an interesting one because we've all been down on EA before, and I've just actually finished today putting down the audio for a video on this, and I was watching the EA's investors meeting just the other day. In fact, I watched it again this morning. It's an hour long, including the Q&A, and I've been through it twice.
Why?
And I've read it twice as well. I've actually read the notes from it and everything. And it was, fairly interminable, to be honest. But there were a few things that came out of it. And I don't know, have you heard anything about this at all?
Fortunately, no, I have not. I was at work last night, so I missed the bulk of it.
Well,
it's fresh. Unload on me, Joe. I'm ready. Unload on me. I can take it.
Shall I leave you two alone, shall I?
Leave again. This is what we did when you
I was reading through this, and there were a few videos up on this as well. I haven't really watched many because, like I say, I wanted to do my own first before I got too much into what other people were saying. But there were a couple of things that I pulled from it. Most notably was a question that somebody asked, and he was talking about payers, not players, payers.
Wow.
Hey.
Or whales.
Yeah. Well, I don't know as it is so much whales. I think they want to turn us all into whales. And I'm going to read you what this guy, the question the guy said. He said,
Hold on to your pants, Count.
he says, I was wondering, could you talk to the composition of Ultimate Team live service growth between bringing new payers into the ecosystem versus ARPU? And ARPU is average, what is it? Average revenue per user. And maybe just some of the keys that you see to bringing more payers into the ecosystem. And the thing that struck me about that was that Andrew Wilson and Blake Jorgensen before him, because Blake Jorgensen, the CFO at EA, was the first person to talk on this one.
Cunting fucking officer.
Beep. You can use that, Joe.
And they didn't miss a beat. They didn't even question this idea of us, because that's who they're talking about, us, as payers. And dovetail that in with the fact that they're also talking now about bringing microtransactions and presumably loot boxes back into Star Wars Battlefront.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at this, and there was all this debacle with them last year about what was going on with with Star Wars Battlefront and all this stuff. And everyone's saying, we've made them take a step back and all the rest of it. And you look at this, and you look at the amount of money they've made over the last year, and their revenue is up across the board. And I just wonder, have we made a difference at all by moaning about it? And there was a story that came out. I don't know if you heard this, but there was a story came out, I think it was last week, where somebody was saying, the people at EA feel that they've been harshly treated and all the rest of it, and they want to do good games and all this stuff. And then you look at this, and okay, look, I know, and I said this in my video, I know that this is a financial meeting, so it's going to be focused on that. But whenever I hear these guys speak, that seems to be all they're focused on,
Yeah.
Because they're a corporation. They care about nothing
Yeah.
else. It just so happens that the
Only
way that
about
this
the bottom
corporation is
line.
making money is through video games.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, like you said, it's an investor calling or meeting, isn't it? So they're there to appease the shareholders and investors of, the entity, and it's going to be okay.
Yes, to tell them that, hey, we fucked up, but it's still going to be fine, honest.
And, it's a shame, I guess, for EA that it's in a public spotlight, I guess. It's something I would have kept wrapped behind closed doors, especially in an investor meeting, especially when using terminology and referring to your clientele as buyers or payers or whatever.
Payers.
They seem to be, the issue with EA is they seem to be basically just fucking morons, because they can't seem to keep much under wraps, and they use the wrong terminology in the public space all the time, and it paints an image that they're just not learning, which in reality, it's not that they're not learning, it's the fact that this is their business model and they don't give a shit.
Well, that's the thing. I don't actually think they care that we can hear this. I really don't.
No, absolutely
Because
not.
they make money
No.
anyway, so
they
what does it matter to
They
them?
know they've got some of the best properties going around. They know, hand over fist, this is fucking Star Wars. You will buy Star Wars. We have the only and best offering of Star Wars, and you will buy it. That's what they have going for them. It's their portfolio is so strong, they don't have to freak out about their little flubs with brushing too close to death with microtransactions, because they know that in 12 months' time, the general consumer, they're not going to remember. Chances are the general consumer, which is not us, the general consumer of video games probably didn't even know or hear about the microtransaction stuff revolving around Battlefront 2. And yes, I know that Battlefront 2 didn't hit its projected sales. I think it was 8 million, and they're projecting 9 million over the first quarter. And you know what? That 1 million gap, that might have been us affecting, the hardcore scene that pay attention to all this, affecting their sales. But that 8 million, probably the general consumer that didn't even hear about all the 7 million, that didn't even hear about all the drama and crap surrounding Battlefront 2 with the microtransactions and loot boxes.
Absolutely. I mean, I know people who knew nothing about it at all, and they were people who'd bought the first game and were, looking forward to buying the second game, and they didn't hear anything about this. And like you say, they're not like us. They're not, into games in the way we are. But
Yep. Forza again. Yeah, absolutely.
it's quite scary, actually. The other thing Blake Jorgensen said, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. The other thing Blake Jorgensen said was, and this is interesting in response to a question, I think it was about Disney. And the first thing that came out was Andrew Wilson said, "Don't believe everything you read in the press."
Fake news! It's all fake news!
But then Jorgensen went on to say, and I quote, "I'll just add, we do not believe that loot boxes and similar mechanics are a form of gambling. I think there are plenty of governments around the world that would agree with us on that."
Well,
and it's not just us, it's the entire industry.
Considering that an actual bill has been put forward in the US government to classify these as gambling, and the UK government is very seriously looking into this thing. Don't know about that, mate. Don't know where you're doing your research, but I think some of the biggest markets might be, the US and the UK.
Yeah,
at this point in time, by the letter of the law, they're not considered gambling.
No,
I guess
not
that's
at
his
this
only
point.
position.
But
yeah.
might not say what
Don't
you're
be a fool.
saying
Yeah.
with so much confidence.
There was another bit that he said next, though, that I thought was quite interesting. And this is something that I, again, remarked upon in the video that I made today. And he says, "We work very carefully and closely with all of our industry partners and the ESA, the industry body, to make sure that people understand exactly what loot boxes are, exactly why they're not gambling." And do you know what came to mind when I first heard this? The thing I thought of was the cigarette industry.
Yes, the amount of lobbying that goes on in that.
Yeah, they don't need to actually fight the whole loot box gambling idea. They just need to obfuscate. They just need to keep it, everyone's talking about it, but if nothing changes, they can keep raking in the money.
Yep.
And that's exactly what the cigarette industry did.
And continue to do, really.
And continue to do, exactly. Yeah. And just keep moving the goalposts and keeping people confused and just not allowing the law to be changed in any significant
Staying
way.
flexible, shifting around, shifting your weight this way, that way, coasting underneath. That's all they're going to do. They can try and regulate it, which they successfully have done with cigarettes, but loot boxes are going to be a different beast because there's so many different avenues and shapes and forms that microtransactions and loot boxes can take. Let's just say they regulate loot boxes. Well, microtransactions still exist, and they'll find another way to package microtransactions, and then we're going to have to regulate that because chances are there'll be some other form of suspect aspect to it.
Absolutely. And it something else that came out of this as well, and this really struck me, was they were talking at one point, and I can't find this at the moment, it's not in front of me, but they were talking at one point about streaming and service models and things like Origin and EA Access and how they're looking to expand on those. Now, that's not a surprise to any of us that they want to push more into those areas. But they're using it, and they're talking about removing barriers to entry to bring more people into games. And the
kind
thing
of like the evil Microsoft, really, isn't it?
Well, exactly. It struck me as being very similar to what Microsoft are doing with Game Pass. And I actually said this to Clay last week, that while I'm really happy about Game Pass, there's a really dark side of this that could come out as well. That it could lead to this idea of putting the game in front of people, and you get like a shell of a game. So in effect, you're getting exactly the sort of thing that you would get from a free-to-play game. Very little there as content, and then you have to pay extra money to get the real content. And I don't know, I'm thinking that, if you go with this subscription model and maybe a streaming model, which they seem to be looking to for the future, I'm not sure that the games we'll be getting will be anything more than basically the access to be able to get into.
If they're, sorry, Joe, just to quickly interject, somewhere in the middle ground, if they're transparent about what these services are, let's just say, for example, hypothetically, Game Pass becomes a service where, like you said, you get the shell of the game or the core of the game, but it's missing the bells and the whistles of the games. You get Battlefield with one map, half the
Shareware,
campaign
in
or something
effect.
stupid like that. Let's just hypothetically let's say that, right? If they're transparent about that, fair enough. And you're happy to pay $10 a month for that, fair enough. However, if they slowly transition this service into being that, and then they say, all right, well, if you want the full package, you got to buy the game, which you can actually do through Game Pass. They've said that because they've said that they're going to be cycling games in and out all the time. So if you are playing a game that is currently costing you $10 a month, you're really enjoying it, you want to continue to play it, you get to buy the game at a discounted rate. That model to me at the moment is fine. I completely agree with that. And I think that's the way it's going to continue to be, but they'll probably increase their library like Netflix does. I think that will remain the case as long as, hopefully, Phil Spencer has a say and is involved with Microsoft and the Xbox division. I think, as much as Phil Spencer is a corporate figurehead, he has the corporation's interest at heart. I think he has struck at least a public image, a good balance with the public image, the way we view him. He's at least struck that balance, but I generally do believe Phil Spencer has the gamer's best interest at heart, somewhere in there as well. So I honestly believe at least Game Pass is going to evolve into really the Netflix of video games. I don't think they're going to screw around with it too much, the formula too much anyway. I think we will probably see them dabble in those kind of suspect areas like you said, Joe. But I think ultimately, why would you fuck with a formula that Netflix has proven to be so popular? Don't shoot yourself in the foot.
Absolutely.
EA, on the other hand, though, absolutely. They could absolutely go down that avenue. That if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be EA.
Well, they've already talked about making FIFA a subscription model. Now, when I first heard that, this was last year, when I first heard about FIFA and Madden and games like that being a subscription model, I was thinking, if you make individual games a subscription model, a lot of people aren't going to buy into that. But if you make it as part of EA Access, then that's a different matter altogether.
Well, the thing is, the way those games are structured, they're annualized franchises. Those are the games that are the perfect candidates for that.
I agree with Count.
There are a lot of games that, don't do a subscription. Even Call of Duty, they put effort into a new story campaign every time. So it's I can understand why that wouldn't work.
Yeah.
But
so if you were to evolve Call of Duty, for me it'd be cut the campaigns, build a Call of Duty multiplayer with a solid ground platform that can be built upon, and make it an esports game. Just
maybe
make it a subscription, keep building on the one game year after year. That's your 10-year Call of Duty game.
Yeah. But FIFA could definitely be that if it wanted to, because of how it works as a release and how the kind of players that it attracts anyway. I think that they would pay that.
I think it's almost a fairer model to have those serialized games like FIFA and all the sports titles to be more subscription based and just keep the one game that's built upon. So I think I'm in the Count boat here, but that's just my opinion. I think it's a very fine line between going too far and not far enough with these subscription models. But if done correctly, I think absolutely.
Yeah, because then you have the point of what happens when you stop paying. Do you just stop getting the updates, or do you stop having the game?
Do you get to retain the game? Because I think, almost releasing these FIFAs and soccer and Call of Duty, Call of Duty is a bit of a different ballgame, but if Call of Duty didn't have the campaign, I think it's almost like we're already being fleeced. Because how much actually changes between FIFAs? And we're paying another full-priced retail game where in reality, maybe I pay half that for my yearly subscription.
I'm going to say you get ever so slightly, almost unnoticeably different graphics and a new engine every 5 or 6 years.
Exactly. A new roster, one bell and whistle.
Yeah, that's all that's changing. It's basically a roster change.
Yeah. Yeah, so if the subscription model is affordable and fair, then and it makes sense, and the barrier to entry is less like EA want, absolutely. Give me a subscription model for those serialized games.
Yeah.
I haven't got a problem with that at all either. My only real caveat would be if they are using this, as I said before, if they're using this just to get the game in front of you to actually then get extra money out of you through things like FIFA Ultimate Team, which is, if you read what they've said about FIFA Ultimate Team, and there was one thing that was said during this that struck me, and it was that a lot of gamers aren't really interested in the core element of FIFA anymore. They're more interested in FIFA Ultimate Team. That doesn't apply to me, but it would seem to me that the stats actually back that
it's
up.
Not basically fantasy football.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck off.
For me, this is where the subscription model goes to shit, and this is where I think it's going to go next. Not so much, we buy a subscription and they keep the core away from us. Like that could potentially absolutely happen. And we're saying, well, what if they make us pay the subscription and then we have to buy the game to unlock the full benefits of the game and everything we should have from it from the get-go? For me, the subscription is a multi-tiered beast. So I'm going to use Tinder as an example because it's the thing that's sticking in my mind at the moment, but I've seen it everywhere, right? You pay it's free, or you pay your base subscription and then you pay more to find the girls that you really like.
Is that how Tinder works?
And I think that's pretty much how it works, right? So if you pay, you get to see the girls that swipe you, okay? Free, you don't get to see. So it's just a luck of the draw, swiping around and, good Tinder fun. Anyway, sidetracked. So for me, I could see totally, like you're saying, Joe, EA could release the base subscription model where you get the game. You don't get the bells and whistles, but if you pay the higher subscription package, you then get full access to all of the game at a higher monthly rate. And I could see them applying that to a lot of games. So I think, that's for me where the real scary things lie. The real scary aspect of this subscription service lies is like the kind of multi-tiered access and level of subscriptions. I think they're going to do away with buying the game. I think that's where the devil lies next.
Yeah, and then you layer in rec packs or whatever you want to call them on top of that.
Yep, exactly. Pay this extra monthly fee, get all the DLC, the loot boxes, all that bullshit.
Yeah. And I do think reading this, and like I say, I've read through it twice, there's no sense anywhere throughout this that isn't where they'll end up going.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're pretty upfront about that's where they want to be.
Well, at least they're honest,
Yeah, I mean, it's not something you have to pick apart. It seems to me that they want to bring
Star Wars.
But they do, they seem to want to bring everything into a subscription model, which I'm absolutely with you. I haven't got a problem with that at all in and of itself. It's all the other stuff that may come with it. And
yeah, exactly. A subscription model at first sight seems perfectly reasonable and fine, but you just know. There's areas and aspects of subscription models that they can totally fleece us on.
Yeah. And a lot of people... the other thing, and I think I said this about Microsoft, the other thing is if your barrier to entry is very small, people are much more likely to be inclined to, it's not that much for a few packs in FIFA Ultimate Team, or it's not that much for a few, spins of the dial for, some cosmetic stuff in Star Wars Battlefront or whatever it might be. And so I think people will be more inclined to invest in those things. Now, that's all right up to a point, but we all know that with human nature, our tendencies are to spend more than we realise we're spending. And, I just think that the cynicism of trying to get games in front of people to make them payers, which is almost specifically what they said, I think that's quite worrying. And I don't think this shows any signs that EA have any intention at all of backing off. Quite the opposite. In fact, it feels to me like they intend to double down on this.
They've certainly not learned their lesson.
Yep.
I think they've learned. I think what they've learned is that they need to go about it in a slightly...
They've learned to conceal it better.
Sorry, go on, Count.
They've learned to conceal the level of arseholery better, maybe.
Yeah, well, they hope they have, although with this, it doesn't seem that they've done much of a good job of it. Because I really do, going back to what we said earlier, I really do think that they think we don't read this stuff.
I think they think that we're fucking dumb.
Yeah, I think you're right, yeah.
Well, the problem is, though, because of what it is, like it's a brief of an investment meeting, we read it, but most of the general public don't read it.
And that's what matters.
That's where the distinction is made, and that's why we need pundits and people like us, and, well, I say people like us, people who are probably better than us, to actually, spread this stuff and go, hey, this is a thing, and it's not really a good thing.
Yeah. The sad thing is, though, even people who are bigger than us, somebody like Jim Sterling, we all watch him.
But he's only
the
got
average
so
consumer
much
doesn't.
No, there's a disconnect. There's a very real disconnect. Until that bottom line is affected at EA negatively, it's not going to change. And, they're pursuing their subscription model and service model because they believe it's going to probably, be a more stable, continuous influx of cash rather than just yearly releases where it's like a big blow up on the map and then it's gone. But they wouldn't be doing it unless they didn't think it was going to be more profitable. And if it's more profitable, then that probably means it's not necessarily the best thing for us.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah. And on that note...
It's a bit depressing, really, isn't it? come on your show and giving a massive sort of kick in the balls.
Just bring it down.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just think, watch this space, because I think something else that they said, and I think I mentioned this briefly earlier on, is that, we're not the only people doing this. This is the whole industry.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think we're pissing in the wind in some respects.
Just cut this middle bit out, Joe. It's too depressing.
Okay. I think we've pretty much, done that one to death now, though. I could probably go on about it all night, but it literally would be
could
me.
I, but, only so many hours in the day.
Absolutely.
Got to pick your battles.
Exactly. Right, well, I think we're pretty much done with the subject matter for tonight. Shall we just move on and you guys can basically give us a breakdown again of Gamecast and just tell us where we can find you and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
do you want me to take over? Because you did the whole Gamecast talk. When I
you go spread the gospel count, and I'll tie up any loose ends, I guess.
I'll spread the load out a little bit.
Oh, you can't say that. Not here, count.
I think
say
you
what
just
a town
did.
well like. So, Gamecast is basically a one-stop shop for everything gaming. That's what we're selling it as. That's what it basically is. You can find us on YouTube at the moment, and Twitter, and Discord. And in fact, we are actually looking for some people to come on board with us. Just, gonna plug that very quickly. We need news people, especially.
If you are content creators.
Let's players, basically anything. If you want to create some content with us, then hit one of us up with a PM. That would be the great thing to do. And we are going to be broadening ourselves out to Twitch in the next week or two. In fact, we have a trailer for our Twitch thing that hopefully Joe will put in now.
Welcome to today's Gamecast broadcast. Today's broadcast is packed with a large variety of unique and original programming that is sure to meet every gamer's entertainment needs, along with some old-fashioned vitamins A and B. You can expect the hottest news of the week, a large variety of opinions, and salt, from Gamecast hosts, and some good old-fashioned fun. We have a lot of entertainment in store for you, so grab a Mountain Dew or two and a bag of Doritos, and strap yourself in for the one and only TV for Gamers. This message not sponsored by Mountain Dew or Doritos. In fact, we wish we were sponsored by those guys. We could in fact be rolling into anatomy cash and literal, so please someone out there sponsor the Gamecast Entertainment Network. It means a lot to us, pretty please.
Stay tuned for the news hosted by Insert Name Here. Get yourself in the know on all the latest happenings in the gaming world. Be it good, be it bad, be it something that makes me very, very salty.
It's actually legitimately the intro to the broadcast. That's a little teaser for you guys. So hopefully you like that. And if you like that, hopefully you like the rest of
You
it.
ruined my transition. It's beginning now. There we go. Now. Put it in now.
I'll put it in 3 times. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, basically the broadcast in a nutshell, we say TV product or package a lot. We want to be kind of that, TV space for gamers where, it's very much a TV-like product, but it's about creating a space eventually that is always there and available for you. So no matter what time of the day you work, you flick it on, it's always there. If you miss something, that's fine. We have Twitch now supports on-demand content, so you can catch up.
Anything you miss will be on Twitch or it'll be on YouTube. Completely fine if you miss something.
Exactly. So exciting stuff. Nobody else is doing it to the best of our knowledge, so we just need to back it up with good content now. But we need content creators, so come on and help us.
We do lots of podcasts, we do lots of Let's Plays. Well, we do a few Let's Plays, they've sort of petered off. But we do daily news, we do, all lots of lovely stuff, reviews. We'll have a review probably of the new Dragon Ball Z Fighter game coming up
Yes.
fairly soon, I should imagine, if Mark can get around to doing that.
If you like retro stuff as well, Gaming Pastime do a lot of older, previous classic titles. In fact, they're animals. They just reviewed all of the Halos in the last month. So if you like Halo, go check out the Halo reviews. Those guys are...
Yeah, they'll be around for the next couple of months. They'll be coming out slowly but surely. Yeah, they are absolute animals with that. I have no idea how they do so much content.
on top of their game. Yeah. Check their channel out as well.
Oh dear. It takes me an evening just to do a news video and they just seem to pump it all out. I don't
Yeah, it's
understand.
ridiculous, isn't it? They make me feel guilty.
I know. It's like, hey, I'm not making enough content. Even though I'm doing 3 news videos a week and a podcast. Moment. Hey!
Is that included
Sorry,
in
Joe.
this one? Or...
Wrap us
I
up.
feel slightly overworked.
It's self-inflicted,
Help
I promise.
me.
I treat everybody well. Oh, that's pretty,
Yeah, that's
if you
pretty
want to
much
hear us
it.
ramble more, just come over to Gamecast.
Okay, guys. It's good to have you on. It's good chatting to you again, Sully.
Thank you, Joe.
And it's good chatting to you for the second time, Count. And hopefully
Yes.
we'll get to chat some more in the future. But in the meantime, you guys know where to find me, and I'll put the link in for these guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.